formally introduce myself. My name is April Vargo, and I run a virtual school for the performing arts called Play.Sing.Act, LLC. In 2008, I graduated from St. Norbert College, which is actually in De Pere, Wisconsin. I saw a couple people here from Wisconsin, so I'm not sure if you're up in that Green Bay area, but that's where I went to college. And I received my bachelor's of music in music education. I've been teaching for 10 years. 8 of those 10 years were in classrooms, and then 2 have been in a virtual capacity. I've taught in both private and public schools, in urban, suburban, and rural areas, 3 different states, and I focused on grades K to 12. Throughout that, I've taught choir, general music, and have been a theater director. So I have a pretty good understanding of what all of you are going through and a taste of the different areas, the different districts, the different students, and the different hurdles that each one of those disciplines and areas really faces. So the big question that I get all the time is, why did you leave the physical classroom and why did you decide to open up a virtual school? What made you make that jump and that change? And I have many factors. It wasn't just one. And some of these things you guys might be able to relate to. Maybe this is something you're currently going through, something you have gone through. But these were all kind of things that started building up. And after a certain point, it was time for a change. So when 2 out of the 3 schools that I worked at, when I arrived, the classroom itself was in total disarray. There would be instruments or materials just shoved into closets, underneath things. They were broken. I didn't have any idea of what I had because things were scattered. There were parts here and there. So just trying to get things organized and take an inventory and understand what I even had available for my students and where I could even begin and how to proceed was always a big undertaking. I had found out, again, out of 2 of my 3 schools, that the music program had turned into simply showing movies. So the students got very used to coming in, they showed up, they got an A because they simply sat down, they watched their movie, and that's all they had to do. So when I looked at this and said, oh no, my friends, we will be doing a set curriculum. There are lesson plans, there are activities, there are things, projects, things that you will have to complete, and you will not just get this guaranteed A because your booty happens to be in a seat. You actually are going to be working for this. So that got the parents slightly perturbed when report card season came out because their student wasn't just getting an A anymore. Students got A's through F's because I had some students who refused literally to do any work because they thought I was joking. They were like, she's not actually going to give me that grade. And when I did, there was a little bit of a pushback, and I spent a lot of time re-educating parents as well on what a program could be and the opportunities that we can give to our students. However, you can't fight me at every single solitary stop. Budget cuts. There were certain areas that certain schools that I worked at that I never had a budget. So it was zero. I didn't have any money. I knew that. And so anything I had to do, I had to fundraise. There were other schools I worked at where there was a set budget and I knew what it was. And then one that said basically, oh, if you want it, let me know and I'll tell you if we can afford it. So I didn't know what I had to work with. But the hardest part that I found was buses in our area had gotten cut and we weren't allowed to use the school buses anymore for field trips because they had skyrocketed their prices. And something that I was able to create for our students were different concerts that they would go and they'd perform outside in the community. They were able to engage. The community could see what we were doing as a school, and that was starting to get taken away. So all of our performances and concerts had to be on site. And that was something that I know a lot of our students and a lot of our parents grew to love, and that was really unfortunate. So that was something that was heartbreaking to tell them we can't afford to go anymore. And then also fundraising started getting cut at some of the schools. We weren't allowed to sell certain things. So being able to even bring in that money to even just fund our classroom or to be able to do different activities or bring in different presenters was not at our disposal anymore. And then my final straw was the last school I worked at. Unfortunately, we had a large gang population. So it became a very violent climate. One, so that we actually one of our teacher training courses turned into a self-defense class on how we can handle or defend ourselves if one of our students chooses to attack us. And then I was told that music class should be used as a reform for the kids that got kicked out of literally every other special, so that then they could come into music and I would magically be able to fix them through the power of music. So at this point, my frustration was pretty much at an ultimate high, and I felt like the thing that I loved to do the most was teach. And that was the thing that I was doing the least of. I felt like I was being a police officer and a manager and a mom and a dad, and the list was endless. And by the time that I actually got to teach, it was the minimal. So I started thinking, how can I get back to doing what I love and why I even went into this industry to begin with? I did a lot of research, and part of my research was actually reaching out to other teachers and talking to them and hearing their stories and asking them what they were going through and what they were looking for in their music programs. And some of the things that I found was some of my stories, we had similar stories. We had similar situations that happened to us. Some teachers, unfortunately, were going through things that were worse than what I was going through. And some, the hope that they had, they wanted more opportunities for their students. So I started following virtual trends, something that I've been following actually for many years, but I started really thinking about, wait a second, I can use this as a medium to teach music. And so I started watching private, charter, public schools opening up virtual programs, and I thought, we can do this with music. And this could be offered on both a private level and a group level so that we can reach more and then get back into those classrooms and give people more opportunities. So I made the jump. And in 2016, I opened Play.Sing.Act with a goal to provide a quality performing arts education to anyone regardless of location and ability levels. So now, instead of just being the reform or the dumping ground, it was the opportunity for people who really wanted to learn to be able to hone in on their craft or give it a shot if it's something that they've always wanted to try but they never got to. So right now, I offer group classes. I do general music, general theater, singing, acting. I've started an entrepreneurship class, public speaking. I even do recorder, which is actually quite interesting, but they are offered through both Play.Sing.Act, and I have different partnerships with other organizations and schools that I teach with as well. I do private lessons for beginning piano, flute, voice, and acting. And some of my private students are beginners. They're just like, I've always wanted to do this. This is something that I find super fun and I just want to give it a shot. Others work in the field. There's somebody who they get paid to do this and they want to keep their skills going. I do have kids through adults that do participate in various lessons and programs. I also do talent coaching. So people that are constantly auditioning for whatever it is, live performance, TV shows, different singing competition, The Voice, that's a really big one. I get to work with them, get them prepped, and then if they do get a role, we work to constantly coach that as well. And then finally, I develop curriculum. And a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of the schools, I didn't have a budget and I didn't have any set curriculum. So I had to devise my own. So a lot of this curriculum is mine that I had already written, and I realized I have this all, and now I can use this to give back to teachers and help to use in these different capacities and different settings. So let's talk our learning objectives and goals for today. By the end of today, I'd like you to be able to know what telecommunications and the different programs, what they actually are. Also, we're going to break the stigma. So some of the things that people say, virtual education is new. And there's some people say, no, it can't be effective. However, it is. And I want to totally show you how and why we can use these things. So how to use the programs. Once we figure out what they are, how can we implement them? And then for you, how to have fun. How to make sure that your job is fun, because when a teacher's having fun, a student is having fun and they're engaged and they're learning.